The term self-service is one of those really broadly defined terms that can range anywhere from allowing BI users to build their own dashboards to providing simple filtering options and capabilities to allow users to see what they want to see on a dashboard that you're providing for them. There's quite a few self-service tools available today, and I'm going to show you a new one from Dundas BI called the Slicer Comparison. The second reason I'm here is because I've started telling people about the benefits of eating dried grapes. It's all about raising awareness. I'm Jeff, and this is Off the Charts with Jeff. Let's talk about why the slicer comparison is important. Have you ever been on a dashboard and seen a statistic and wondered how a certain member contributes to that total? Well, I'll show you a real example. I've got some CO2 emissions data worldwide, and I can show you exactly what I mean. Let's create a simple chart that shows the total CO2 emissions, and we'll show it by year. Great, that's not scary at all. Now let's go into view mode and put ourselves into the place of an end user who can only view dashboards. A user like this might look at it and say, great, but I live in Canada, and we're really too far north to be part of the world. How is Canada contributing to this total? And without a slicer comparison, that's as far as this poor Canadian is going to be able to get in his line of questioning, without asking someone on the IT side to go change the dashboard for him. Now let's implement the slicer comparison and see how we could have answered this question. Going back into edit mode, you just need to go ahead and add a slicer to our metric set to allow filtering by country. Once we have our slicer in existence, we can go to the data tools at the top, and you'll see an option called Add Slicer Comparison. Also note that this option will not appear unless you actually have a slicer in your metric set. Clicking on this button, we're given options so that we can see what we want to compare against, in case you have multiple measures or multiple hierarchies in this metric set. You'll also want to set the default name for this so that you get something nice that's being generated. Your comparison might make sense. And you want to make sure you check this automatically add parameter control checkbox. This will automatically drop an option for your users on the dashboard so that they can choose what they want to compare against. If you don't do this, you might be setting up a static comparison that isn't adjustable by the user. And that's sort of away from the whole self-service idea that I was talking about today, but it's useful to do in case you have a specific metric set that may be a little bit more complex that you want to create. So be aware it exists. Now that we have our controller on the dashboard, I'd recommend changing the label on the control so that it's obvious what the user can do with it. Maybe something like comparison. Also, you'll notice that the color of the series has just changed. This is because we now have two series, but since they're showing the same thing right now because the filter is set to all, they're stacked one on top of another. Let's go back into view mode and test this now. As you can see, we can quickly choose what we want to compare against. You can also compare against multiple values, for example, Canada and the United States together, and see how they contribute. Cool, huh? Now there's a couple more things to note. First of all, I bet you don't want to confuse users with multiple series randomly changing colors like I just did. Me neither. If you go into the properties and you toggle the visibility of the generated series to be hidden by default, then go to the parameter changed value action for the filter control, you can add a single line of script that will make the series appear again once the user actually makes a selection. It'd just be your control name .series, first series in this case, .isVisible equals true. This will make it so that our series will only appear after a selection's been made. Now, I'd recommend changing the legend text property for your series so that it's more friendly. A value like your selection might make sense, so the user knows that they've been the one responsible for generating and showing what's in that second series by their parameter selection. Finally, you can link this control to multiple visuals to have supplemental comparisons on hidden layers, which can have a really cool effect. No code required to do something like this. Just go to that parameter value changed action that I showed you similarly with the script and add a layer chains interaction, and simply show the layer with another chart hooked up to it. Now I've got one more thing that I want to show you, but best practices police, I would love to claim immunity for this one. I was just trying to have some fun with some interesting visualizations. This is more of an infographic idea that I was going with. So I have a data set with various vehicles showing things like engine displacement, quarter mile time, weight, and horsepower. So what I'm showing is the average for all the cars in my data set. Now using the slicer comparison, you can see that I can compare the average car to a specific car that we might want to see and how they're going to perform. It's pretty cool, huh? This is a really useful self-service feature that you can add to your dashboards, so I hope you can do it. That's all for now. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more about properly implementing self-service, take a look at a video that I did called Self-Service on a Silver Platter. It's a different approach compared to how most people consider and think about self-service, but it's proven to give you a much better success rate. Thanks for watching.